Man, this is Deion Dawkins, man, and you're listening to The Scoop on OwlScoop.com. You already know.
What's up, everybody? Welcome back to The Scoop, OwlScoop.com's podcast, Season 8, Episode 24. I'm John DeCarlo, and we have the full house back again. Kyle Gauss, Javon Edmonds, Caden Steele. What's up, guys? How you doing?
I'm in a great mood today. I think Javon is as well.
Yeah, you know, I'm employed. Greg Roman is unemployed. You know, Larry Hogan is no longer the governor of the state of Maryland.
See, you're rooting for someone's unemployment?
No,
we never talk about another man's job.
Yeah, you know,
but
you know, Westmore is the first black governor of the state. My granddad was a fan of him before he passed. So good 48 hours.
There we go. Kyle, anything to add?
No, not really.
It's turning into the Barry Gibb talk show.
No, I don't.
Do you have anything to add? Famous, we had a full show for you guys. A lot of basketball to talk about, a lot of football to talk about, a lot of mailbag questions to get to. I do want to acknowledge, even before we get into the famous number 24s and the agenda of the day, we're recording this on Thursday afternoon. And if you're a Temple fan and you have been scouring social media, you might have seen the news, the unfortunate news that former Temple middle linebacker Jarred Alwan has passed away. We don't know many details there, but, just wanted to, pay tribute to someone who was really an important part of the program. Coming out of Camden Catholic, a local kid from South Jersey, started as a true freshman in 2013 when Temple went on the road to play at Notre Dame. He had 51 tackles, 5 TFLs, and 2 sacks for that 2016 team that won the conference championship. And he had a career-high 74 tackles, 7 TFLs, and 4 forced fumbles for the 2015 team. So just a really popular and beloved player on that team. So many people are weighing in now. Tyler Matakevich, PJ Walker, Sean Bradley. Again, don't really know many details beyond that, but just a shame for a program that's lost some players, Right. So just a real shame. Just wanted to wish his family the best. He was always a great player to talk to. Seemed really nice and really was always great with his time with us. And just really, our hearts go out to his family.
One of my Jarred Alwan stories is the summer after he committed, so it's prior to Matt Rule's debut season, covering a recruiting camp, and Jarred Alwan, who had not taken a single snap at college yet, was serving as one of the camp counselors. He had established himself in Matt Rule's mind in that short time to be intelligent enough of a football player and instinctive enough football player to essentially teach kids that were 6 months, 12 months, 18 months younger than him. So he's probably one of the unsung heroes of those really great Temple teams. He was a very good linebacker. And yeah, echo what you say. It was always incredibly nice and generous with his time to the media.
Yeah. So again, we're just going to pass that along to our listeners in case you hadn't heard the unfortunate news. And again, our hearts just go out to his family, his friends, and certainly all the people in the Temple football program who are mourning his passing right now. Famous number 24s, guys.
Say hey, kid.
Mm-hmm.
Let Javon have the first one.
Go ahead. I'm trying not to cry today. Go ahead.
Marion Barber, Adrian Wilson, Nnamdi Asomugha. Those are 3 football players.
I watched Nnamdi Asomugha was in The Good Nurse. I just watched that on Netflix the other day. Nnamdi Asomugha was in it. I was like, you son of a bitch. Kobe Bryant.
Yeah.
Thank you, Kyle. Ken Griffey Jr.
Yeah, Ken Griffey Jr. is another big one. Manny wore 24 with the Red Sox.
Bonds?
Barry Bonds was 25, wasn't he?
I thought he wore 24. Did he wear 24 with the Pirates?
Bonds wore 24 at some point.
Oh, probably.
He wore 24 with the Pirates.
He was 25 with the Giants. 24 with the Pirates.
Yeah.
So he was 24 before the HGH just bumped him up a number.
Ricky Henderson wore number 24, right?
Ricky Henderson, we talked about this a couple episodes ago.
Yeah.
Wore 75 different numbers.
Yeah.
Former Flyer Matt Reed. That was one I kind of thought of. That was a long time ago, but I remember him on those Flyer teams I actually used to watch him, but not anymore. But
I looked up Flyer stats this morning because I haven't seen a single second today, and I was like, oh yeah, I know some of these names.
Yeah, they're having a good week.
No, they're not, because they should be losing. Should be going 0-82. So
beyond that, they're a mess.
Throw some love to Zach Hicks.
Zach Hicks, number 24.
Charles Woodson. Yeah, I don't know if I got mentioned.
Oh yeah.
that's good.
Speaking of,
Champ Bailey went 24.
Yep, that's a good one.
Yeah.
What was that?
couldn't
I
hear
didn't
you.
hear it.
Champ Bailey.
Oh, Champ.
Okay.
Yeah. I think
my
I saw a
gracious.
TikTok the other day where it was they were asking, it was like Madden asking Chad Ochocinco, like, here are all the people that have ever been rated 99 on speed.
Oh yeah.
And I think Champ Bailey was one of them.
Oh, Pac-Man Jones were 24.
Pac-Man.
Pac-Man Jones.
I saw a good Pac-Man Jones is boxing now, and I saw a good joke the other day that was like, why would I pay money to see a Pac-Man Jones fight when I can just go to any Cincinnati-based mall and see one every day? Like Pac-Man Jones used to just get in blatant fights.
Yes, he had an interesting life off the field. Speaking of Zach Hicks and his Temple basketball team, we'll talk about them. Again, got a lot of football updates for you, mailbag questions and the answers to them. So let's talk about this Temple basketball team. They obviously had the real tough loss to Memphis on the Kendrick Davis buzzer beater. They rebounded last night to beat ECU 73-58 after getting off to a slow start, trailing by 5 at the half. So regardless of your feelings on this team, and again, they certainly at times play an unwatchable brand of basketball and have had their struggles, but they're 11-9 overall, tied for second place in the conference at 5-2 right now. Things get really, really tough as they can be on Sunday on the road against the top-ranked team in the country at Houston. Guys, just general impressions from last night's game. You know, we can look at our Damian Dunn and Caleb Battle learning how to play better together. Other stuff to get into ahead of Sunday. But what did you take from last night? You know, Damian Dunn playing well, KB playing well. They clicked more in the second half. What was the difference in the second half? What did you see?
I think aside from that, like the former basketball player in me finds last night's game funny. East Carolina came out there like just really hyped and extra physical and extra attitude for no reason, just to squander a lead to a team that did not play good basketball and lose by double digits, 73-58 to be exact. So, you know, that just tickled me to see that, you know, that's how the Pirate program carries itself. But that was like the first 10 minutes of basketball that Temple has played this season.
Didn't Dame say that? Dame said something like that, right?
Dame,
didn't he say like this?
Dame said it. Yeah, Dame said it, and then when Aaron came in, I said it, and he was like, "You mean the first 20 minutes?" I'm like, okay, we'll go with that, sure. So definitely was not a good first half, and then that second half, guys started getting to the rim, forcing the referees to make a decision in the free throw line. Won Temple the game. 26 for 31 from the stripe was something we could not fathom happening last season. So, you know, very positive sign for him.
Yeah, I kind of agree as well. And going off that, Damian Dunn, you know, may not be the flashiest player. Went through some ups and downs this year, but he's so efficient at getting to the line and using his body. He was really fun to watch last night, dropping 22 points. But like Javon said, and Aaron McKee echoed, the first half was really sloppy, and you don't want to look too far forward, but in a couple of days they're going to play Houston. And if they play like that in the first half, it's going to get ugly. But I thought, you know, they managed at the end of the game. They played well, and I think Caleb Battle, you know, 7 of 14 was a little more efficient. Took what was given to him, which he doesn't always do. So I think it was a positive sign to get Caleb Battle and Damian Dunn going, especially in their new roles coming off the bench over the last 2 weeks.
Yeah. I think, John, we were talking about this a little bit yesterday while texting, was that first unit just struggles to score. Like, I understand like why they're bringing Dunn and Battle off, because you want to get those first 5 guys consistent minutes. But there are times when if Zach Hicks isn't making a shot, there's nobody on the floor at that time that can consistently score. So, like, it doesn't surprise me that they get off the slow starts when there's 3 guys in the program that can consistently score. One's rehabbing from an injury, and 2 are coming off the bench. If you throw the Tulane game out, which was a bit of just like a weird shoot 'em out game, they're holding conference opponents to 62 points a game. Like they're cutting down on turnovers, on 8 turnovers last night. They're just kind of playing that like I don't want to paint the picture that it's all like sunshine and roses, because it's not. Obviously, like they're an 11-9 team. But like at least the way they've been playing since they got to conference play is at least like, okay, like, yeah, you lost to Tulane, but like you probably should have beat Memphis, and you're 5-2 in conference. Like they're at least kind of doing what they are supposed to do in AAC play.
That kicks me.
I was Javon. I was actually just going to ask you about Zach Hicks. I wanted to ask you guys this and throw this around. I mean, he's been up and down. How much of it is like in the Memphis game in the first half, they couldn't they either couldn't get him open looks or he's not moving well enough without the ball. Then in the second half, he got some open looks, and like most of the team, he just didn't knock them down. How much of it is him not moving well without the ball, and how much of it is them not getting that? He's the best pure shooter. Whether you want to say statistically he is another thing, but is he not moving well enough without the ball within the flow of the offense, whatever they're running, or are they just not finding him, or is it a little bit of both?
It's a 50-50 split, but I wasn't even going there with him. I think last night he made 2 very critical threes for Temple.
He did. He absolutely did. And he rebounds when his shot isn't falling too. And we've talked about that.
Like those 2 threes he made, if he doesn't make those, Temple loses. Like those were the ones that kept them from getting.
Yep.
Sure. And he also had 0 points against Cincinnati. So yeah. Ups and downs.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, definitely.
What does he need to do? What does he need to do better? Is it looking for a shot more? Again, we've talked about the fact that he needs to be better at putting the ball on the floor, and that's nothing that's going to change drastically during this season. That's going to have to be an off-season thing. Whether he gets to that point and turns the corner in that game is another thing. But what does he need to do better? Is it just demanding the ball more? Is it what? Again, he hit a couple key threes last night, which you said, or I don't want to overlook that. But when Kyle talks about, rightfully so, that first unit really struggling, and whether that's Aaron just trying to gain more confidence or build more confidence in that sophomore unit, what does he need to do differently?
Me and Kyle are going to say the same thing that we've been saying. Put the ball on the deck some, and drop some pin downs, drop some flares. Like actually draw up plays for your spot up shooters. But yeah, again. Yeah,
it's not entirely his fault. Like we've talked about this before. We talked about this with Brendan Barry, where like this the scheme doesn't get spot up shooters that many open shots. But like the fact of the matter is, you're playing 32 minutes a game and you're averaging 1.4 free throw attempts per game. Mm-hmm. Put the ball on the floor. Good things happen when you put the ball on the floor and you get closer to the rim. Like he should have a size advantage against most people that are guarding him. I think that's the next step in his game, is showing the ability to take advantage of that.
Yeah. Damian Dunn, we talked about this earlier, has traditionally played well against ECU, played really well last night, didn't play at ECU in the first game because he was still coming off of the concussion when he took that fall against Maryland Eastern Shore. Was asked about that last night, and here's what Damian Dunn said about playing against ECU and why he's motivated.
22 points tonight, you're now averaging over 27 points against ECU. Is it something about being from that area that makes you kind of play a little bit better against them?
It's home. I really grew up like 30 minutes from campus, so it's just something I really kind of took personally. Being they didn't offer me until like 2 weeks before I committed here. So just every time I see him, just playing with that little bit of competitive edge and just with a little chip on my shoulder.
All right, looking ahead to Houston here,
real quick.
Yeah,
I mean, not to get too far off. I don't think people are appreciating how much better Damian Dunn is than what he was like last year or even 2 years ago. He's just better in like every aspect. He shoots better. He's more efficient. He is getting to the free throw line at will. Like I think he joined Khalif Wyatt as the only Temple players that have multiple 15 free throw games. And he's had 2 in the last 10. He's just really becoming like that all conference level player. It's just, I think people, especially some people maybe on our message boards, get a harp on him a little bit because there's times when it looks like he's forcing a shot. But overall this season, roaring success for Damian Dunn.
Well, so speaking of Dame, can they afford to bring him? We'll start with Dame. We know what they're up against Houston. They're the top team in the country, not just the top team in the conference. They rebound well. They offensive rebound well. They're the best defensive team in the country. Any idiot could tell you that if you get off to a slow start against them, it's done. It's over. Houston's just way too good. Does Aaron, and again, there's going to be media availability tomorrow. We'll have a chance to talk to Aaron and maybe a couple of players tomorrow at 10:30. So I don't know that Aaron will show his hand before the game, but we will have a chance to talk to some players and a coach tomorrow. But does Aaron go into this game with the same starting lineup, or do you go into Houston saying, okay, it's different? The deck is stacked against us. I got to have Damian Dunn on the floor to start the game against Houston, or do you think he just keeps doing what he's done?
That's tough because it seems like, and we talked about yesterday, asked him about the lineup a little bit, and I think Aaron talked about how he likes the lineup defensively, and that's how he kind of likes to start games. But at the same time, like you mentioned, anyone can notice, but Houston is such a good team. If they get on you, if you can't score early, it's not ECU where they don't have a lot of talent where they're not really a good team. They're one of the best teams in the nation. So if you start behind early, I don't think this Temple team has enough to come back. So if I'm Aaron, I'm getting away from that mantra that defense, matters more. They're winning the way they're playing is allowing them to win games, kind of like Kyle said, where it's just their brand of basketball in the AAC. It's working right now. It's not pretty, but it gets the job done. But I just don't think that same style is going to work against Houston. And you have to play your two best players early on. I think they even have a chance in this game.
I'll tell you why they can't stick with the same strategy. Temple has built their team to compete with Houston. Like they very much try to mimic some of Houston's game with the physicality. It just doesn't work out. You can't try to beat the number one team in the country at their own game. So you're going to have to put your starters, like your best scorers out there to start with. I think Sunday, if I were Aaron McKee, I'd be putting Hasir, Damian, Caleb, Jalil, and Okpomo out there. And, I'd let Zach Hicks come off the bench. I'd like Corey Jokic and Nick Jourdain come off the bench. Shane Dezonie probably would need some minutes in that game, maybe. I don't know what Aaron's read on Shane is. It's like 1 week he'll give him some minutes, the next week and go sit down somewhere. But I think that would be the lineup I'd put out there Sunday. You can't try to beat Houston at their own game.
I was going to ask you guys about Okpomo too, because again, another guy who sees some minutes, doesn't see some minutes, but I think all things considered, considering what Emmanuel Okpomo is now, I think he's actually given them some quality minutes, especially down at Tulsa. Obviously, like again, Walker and Roberts are really tough matchups. They can score, they can rebound. They're the next, Walker's a freshman, Roberts is a more experienced guy, but again, they rebound well. They're physical. They extend possessions with offensive boards. Do you put Okpomo in there just to try to, again, he's not going to be scoring against them, but just to try to counter them a little bit and be physical?
I want to harp on what Javon just said, but not the way he finished it. You don't beat the number one team in the nation by trying to play the number one team in the nation's style of play. I don't think you have to worry about those things. Like, I think if you're like, okay, who's going to match up against Walker, put Okpomo out there, see if he's going to do it, you're going to lose that. Yeah, because Walker is better than Emmanuel Okpomo. Yeah, I think the way that you have any chance against the number one team in the nation is by playing a different style of basketball, and I think it's that same gritty. We're gonna go small. We're gonna go Nick Jourdain as a small big. We're gonna bring our two scoring guards off the bench. We're gonna see what happens. That's the only shot you got. I think if you try to just match up conventionally, you're gonna lose by 28 like you did at the end of last year. Is kind of my gut opinion.
Now we're again. Oh, go ahead, Javon.
No, I'm saying I can't argue against that. I like that point.
Because it's end of the day, there was two. Let's go back to last year. There was the first game where they started slow and then they got together at halftime. Which, if you're Peyton Manning, you would say halftime adjustments don't happen. They don't happen in real life. But then they came back and they almost won that game. I think that one was the one at Houston, right? Or is that the one here? That was here.
No, they got killed at Houston.
The one at Houston, they lost by 28 points. It was 74-46,
and they were down at by 40 at one point, weren't they?
Sure.
Yeah,
that sounds right. So I think the way you have a chance is just literally look, I think last year's team was built to compete with Temple, with Houston, physically. I think you bring in a Sage Tolbert hoping that he can be that smaller, aggressive rebounder. That didn't happen. It's happening now at San Jose State. He's having a really good year. I think the way you do this is just hope to get some hustle defense going on.
Again, we'll know more. Again, I like I said earlier, I don't know that Aaron would tip his hand necessarily, but some of you are probably wondering whether Jameel Reynolds will play. When I don't know if Aaron mentioned anything about him last night. On Sunday, he just said he still doesn't have a lot of strength in his thumb. Part of me would be surprised if he throws Jameel back out there after being out since mid-December. Of course, if you have a healthy Jameel Reynolds, he helps you on the road Sunday against
He helps that first unit long term.
Right.
You're adding in one of your consistent scorers, hopefully, to that first unit.
Yeah, but I'll ask Aaron about him tomorrow. We'll see. I'd be I don't know. Maybe Aaron will say flat out, yeah, he's progressing, but he's not going to play Sunday. Maybe we'll see. We'll find out more about his status. And just in case anybody was wondering about that, we don't know definitively. Is there any way other than what we've talked about? You play the style of basketball you need to play, and they just shoot the hell out of the ball. Is there any way Temple wins this game Sunday?
Yeah, like you said, they shoot the hell out of the ball. 25 from Dunn, 25 from Battle, 10 from Jourdain, 15 from Hicks, 7 from White, 7 from Miller. That's the only way.
And that's asking a lot out of your, guys to be able to both drop 25. And maybe, crazier things have happened, but I just don't see a way they pull this through unless Caleb Battle or Damian Dunn have a career high game.
Corey Yonkers goes for another 3 for 5 night.
Let me add, before we get to the basketball mailbag.
Why do we keep cutting off before I can talk?
I didn't.
It's the number 2 scoring defense in the nation, or number 1, number 2 in field goal percentage and 3-point percentage. If somehow Caleb Battle could shoot over that and goes 7 of 14 from 3, sure. I think this Houston team is the best Houston team that Kelvin Sampson's had.
Yeah, really, really good.
Yikes.
It's a small sample size. Again, before we get to the mailbag, and again, it came against DCU. Are Damian Dunn and Caleb Battle learning to play a little bit better together in terms of when they look for each other, when they look for their shot? Again, doing it against DCU versus doing it on the road against Houston is a huge difference. But is this the best situation for them? With them both coming off the bench, even if it's like Aaron having a quick hook where it's like at the 17:40 mark. Okay, I've seen enough. Dame, get in. KB, get in. Are they starting to learn how to play better together?
I think so. And Jawan can correct me if I'm wrong, but I think Aaron said something about the starting line at the beginning games, almost kind of a system thing. He wants to start it with defense. And then he brings in Dunn and KB. And I think it's less system, a little more free throw when they get in. They don't have to play within that system necessarily. I think they're thriving more in that role where they can just go in and score and, more as isolation scores than they do have to start when they start the game off. Yeah,
I talked to Dame, I want to say Tuesday. And his adjustment has been pretty much what I thought. For gifted scorers, it's kind of an advantage to be able to come off the bench because you can see how teams are playing you, or at least, what their defensive scheme is looking like. Are they showing on screens? Are they coming up high? Are they being aggressive? Are they laid back? Are they conceding different things? And you can see that way better on the bench than you can on the floor. So I think the fact that you're allowing 2 gifted scorers like that to just sit for the first 4 minutes and do some in-person scouting before you tell them to go out there and do what they do best, kind of beneficial to those guys. And you're still playing them starters minutes, which keeps them from, I guess becoming discontent or whatever you want to call it. It's 2023. It's a different age of athlete. You have to manage egos. So giving them the same minutes despite bringing them off the bench keeps them at ease and at bay. So, but to answer your question, I will say, I do think they're learning to play together a little more.
I think if you look back the last 2 days, sure. I think if you look back to the Memphis game, like KB didn't have a good game. KB was forcing shots and went 1 for 10 from 3. Like I don't know, to be honest. I think Dame's game lends itself. I'll say this. I think Dame's game lends itself more to play with KB than KB's game lends itself to play with Dame. Because again, at the end of the day, like you can have a game like last night where halfway through the second half, Dunn had attempted 6 shots and had 20 points. Like he can kind of like figure things out like that. KB needs to take shots. He's a volume shooter, and sometimes that disrupts the flow. So I don't think it's a finished product by any stretch.
Yeah, I do think that despite the loss, I mean, obviously the turnovers against Memphis killed them as much as anything. Like Aaron said, like the missed shots don't bother me as much because you're going to have days like that. I think that even in the Memphis game, yes, some of KB's shots were forced. Some of them weren't. They just were looks that didn't go down. I mean, I do think he is starting to move the ball better. I mean, even on the game tying 3, the assist came from KB on that one, but
1 of 6 assists that night for the entire
team. I know,
team.
6 entire assists in the game. But we do have a few basketball mailbag questions. This first one from, again, these are from owlscoop.com subscribers. If you haven't subscribed yet, there's good content on the message boards. That's where we take our mailbag questions from. This first one is from the screen named Esther Boyer. Part of this is basketball related. Part of this is just Esther Boyer being upset with the Temple Athletic Department here. The question here: why is the athletic department engagement so dreadful? There has to be a tangible reason. The coaches show starts in late January. The season promotion list isn't released until into the conference schedule. They are selling merchandise for extinct Temple sports in the bookstore. You can't find a Temple basketball shirt anywhere. Season ticket requests were so poorly handled. What is going on? A lot to get to there. I don't know why they just, yes. And in case you missed it, Temple is debuting a coach's show with Aaron McKee. just like they had with Stan Drayton. Why they are starting it in the middle of the season, no clue. I don't know. It's a good question. Sure, if you're going to do a coach's show, why not start it in November when the season starts? I honestly don't know. As for the bookstore stuff, we actually had another subscriber chime in with some good, like, actual insightful information in terms of like Nike versus the other brands and why they have what they have and don't have, and how, part of it is sort of incumbent upon the Temple fan base to like buy the product, to create demand for it. But I don't know. That's a common complaint. Like, why do they have this gear as opposed to that gear? I don't know. Kyle, anything? Caden? No. I mean, I'm miffed about the coach's show. That's a question for Arthur Johnson to ask. Or to answer. Excuse me. I honestly don't know.
Yeah, I'm not too worried about the bookstore. I mean, I understand it's a bad look, and it's actually kind of humorous when you see Temple baseball shirts, considering that they shut the program down a decade ago.
There's a club team, but I don't know.
Yeah, okay. There's not an esports shirt out there.
You don't know.
But yeah, I don't know if that one can fall directly on the athletic department as much. But yeah, like the lack of communication about bring your kids to layup line day and Dollar Dog night and Hooters birthday has not being advertised until right now is suboptimal. Yeah. I think we've made our opinions known on some aspects, especially Javon. Javon has not been quiet about some of his gripes.
You mentioned something. Can we just talk about the fact that esports are not sports? Scratching yourself and playing 2K all day isn't a sport. I'm sorry.
I would agree with I think I tend to agree entirely, but if you wanted to make the argument that it was, I don't think you would say 2K is the thing. I think some the more quick twitchier stuff that requires hand-eye coordination is probably what they say. When you're looking at a Call of Duty,
a good quick twitch reference when not talking about defensive backs. That's interesting. Or edge rushers.
Yeah, I mean, I think you can make people make an argument stuff like that, because what's the difference between that and I don't know, golf, tennis, things that are considered sports that aren't physical, right? But I tend to agree.
Mm-hmm. You're sitting down with a controller in your hand. Just like I don't think NASCAR is a sport. You're driving, okay? I don't care how hot it is in that car. I don't care how quick you have to turn. You're driving. It's not a sport.
Because you're not I mean, I think they get the shit kicked out of them in NASCAR. The physical exertion of this 120 degree car pit, whatever, cockpit is an exertion.
That's more of a sport than esports, though.
Yeah.
Javon is looking to create some friction between the Scoop staff and our dedicated.
Don't get me started on badminton. Just go down the line of all these.
Badminton's a sport. Tennis is a sport. Golf is a sport. Swimming, cheerleading.
What about pickleball?
Okay, so freshen me up on what exactly pickleball is, because I'm still confused.
A mix of what would it be? A mix of badminton and ping pong, and I don't know.
You're the one that mentioned it. Don't go for us for the answer.
Having my voice trail off oh, what were you saying?
Okay, so I do think there's some sports where they classify as sports, but the players don't classify necessarily.
What about these are literally Olympic sports? So what about archery and shooting?
Sports, but they aren't athletes.
But it's the same. Okay, so I think you could apply that to esports then. It's the same concept,
I don't think
right? Archery is the exact same thing as somebody playing a video game. As far as just the skills involved in it, it's aiming and it's
okay. So it's not a sport. All right, I'll go with you then. Not a sport.
Well, the Olympics say otherwise.
Now, if they got to do some running and then do a barrel roll, then get up and fire, then I'll call that a sport.
Anyway,
can I do what these people do? Absolutely no.
Yeah, that doesn't make it a sport. Yeah, I mean, like I said, I tend to agree, but if I wanted to make the argument, I would say that.
Just double checking the message board here to see if we have any. We got a couple more mailbag questions to get to on the basket. Oh, we got a couple more that came in on the basketball board here, but we'll get to these next few here. Temple J is the next question, next screen name here. It seems a foregone conclusion that Damian Dunn will not be coming back. It seems a foregone conclusion that Damian Dunn will not be coming back for senior season. If he leaves for some professional career, who will fill the void of the go-to scorer? I do not see a dynamic scorer on next year's roster. Any insight? Well, I mean, I know that Damian just had a kid, his son Nolan. I talked to Dame about that a couple weeks ago before the Tulane game. As I understand it, his girlfriend and his son are in North Carolina. I did not talk to Damian about whether or not he's coming back, but I'm sure that that's going to play into his decision. We'll see if he doesn't come back, who fills the go-to void on the roster. I mean, the easy answer is they'd have to hit the transfer portal hard. You'd need an impact guy. Yes, you hope that Isaiah Miller, Zach Hicks, Nick Jourdain, Shane Dezzoni, even like I'm not saying he's going to make this much of a leap, but like guys like Deuce Roberts, like all these guys have to make a progression, but they would have to hit the portal for an impact guy.
Yeah, they got to do the same thing they did with Caleb Battle. Like just
Right.
go to some Big East or Mountain West school that has a good scorer that just doesn't get enough minutes and bring them in. Yeah, the same thing they did with Jamil Reynolds, honestly.
Yeah. I mean, they've had success with that. I'm not ready to close the book on Shane Dezzoni. I mean, I think we've seen in the past there's people that come in, they just can't carve out. We're like, look, it was always going to be hard for Shane Dezzoni to take minutes from Caleb Battle and Damian Dunn, right? I mean, we saw it with Dalton Pepper when he came over from West Virginia. He barely played his first year. The second year, he's like a 17-point-a-game guy. I'm not saying Shane Dezzoni is going to average 17 points a game, but I think he'll be able to carve out a role next year. But yeah, I agree. Regardless, even if Damian Dunn stays, April, May, June is a crucial stretch for Temple basketball because they're going to have to hit the transfer portal.
Yeah.
And had to get some guys who can transfer up too, maybe some Northeast Conference guys or something like that.
If I could wave my wand and just take somebody, there's somebody in Hawk Hill that I would appreciate being at Temple, named Eric Reynolds, if he wants to come down to the Temple. He's having a hell of a year.
Yeah, he is. He is. Speaking of looking ahead to transfers and what coach is going to be around and not around, it wouldn't be a week on the scoop if somebody wasn't wondering about Aaron McKie's job status. There's a mailbag question here. Villanova fan 35. Who's Temple's coach next season? I understand why people speculate about this. People aren't going to, if you're frustrated with the state of the program right now, I get it. If you're asking me right now, again, just to regroup, if you haven't listened to this podcast before, if you're unaware, Aaron McKie is in the fourth year of a 5-year deal. So again, I would have to imagine that either way, they're going to make a decision on whether they, mutually agree to part ways or extend them. I get that the Wagner loss was a killer. Maryland Eastern Shore is a killer. As of now, if you're asking me this question on January 19th, Aaron McKie's coming back next year. They're 5-2, second place in the conference. Do they have bigger aspirations than that? Absolutely. That's if you're asking me, I think he's back next year.
I agree. I think they're about to go through a stretch of really tough basketball, though, which is the way the schedule is. So how you respond to that tough stretch might determine that. If they lose like 4 of their next 5 and all of a sudden they're 14-14, and then the team doesn't bounce back from that and they finish at 15-16 or whatever it might be, I forget my numbers, then maybe we're having a different conversation.
Yep.
But if they bounce back from that and they finish as the number 4, number 5 team in the conference, he's probably back.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't know we had Villanova fans on our message boards. Thanks for subscribing.
That name's been around for a while. Yeah.
That subscriber takes a lot of heat for their screen name, but
Hey, if they could do a favor and tell us their impressions of Neptune, because I'm very interested to see what Villanova fans think of Neptune. I would like to read.
Not very favorable right now. Not super high. I do think our buddy Jeff Nyberg, who's a Temple grad and is working for the Inquirer now. He's covering gambling. He's basically their Nova beat writer, and Mike Jensen's leaned in there too. I think Jeff's done some really good coverage of that team. But yeah, I mean it's not going. Mike Jensen is typically likes trying to be like, let's wait and see. And he wrote something about that recently about Kyle Neptune, where I guess the fan base there was booing his substitution patterns and stuff like that. But yeah, obviously he doesn't have a healthy Justin Moore, but yeah, I mean, and where Temple's concerned too, unfortunately for Temple, that win doesn't do much for you anymore.
It doesn't matter. It doesn't. If the season had gone the better way, it would have mattered.
Yeah.
Not to make this a Villanova podcast, but maybe stop starting Arch Diacono.
Yeah.
Maybe that's one of them. Maybe you realize he's not his brother.
Yeah. What else do we have on the basketball board here? D-Blaze75. When Arthur Johnson took the AD job, I recall he went on a, quote, listening tour or something described similarly to talk and learn about each of Temple's sports teams. Since then, has there been any communication from Johnson on a plan or discussion with fans and alumni about how or what he will do to improve Temple athletics? I don't know what Arthur has told donors. I mean, I know they have like a newsletter that goes out to fans. I don't know that Arthur has like laid out any sort of plan or strategic plan that they put on their website or anything that he's talked about when he talks to donors. I don't know if you guys have any additional insight here, but I don't know.
Arthur Johnson is very protected from the media, so
I will say that listening tour sparked results. I mean, you fired Rod Carey. You let your Baker go on from gymnastics. You fired Tanya Cardozo. Like there was a lot of things that came out of that listening tour. But since then,
yeah. Let's shift our attention to this Temple football team. We have anticipated a lot of roster movement. There's been a lot of roster movement with the January enrollees, the roster additions, the departures. We'll talk a little bit about that in the mailbag as well. They've got a new cornerbacks coach. Kyle wrote a little bit about him on the site with Jules Montanaro leaving. And that's, on one hand, tough blow for them because he heads to ECU. I guess he's getting a promotion there. Otherwise, it would seem like a lateral move in terms of, moving in the league. But they lose some recruiting ties in Florida, and Jules had done a good job recruiting down there. But Arkansas's cornerbacks coach, Dominique Bowman, is going to be his replacement. So he's a younger guy, 37 years old, and he's brought some good players into that program. What do you guys make of this? Again, it's par for the course. Around signing day, there really wasn't a lot of movement in terms of coaches. And then right after signing day, you kind of keep your eye out and say, okay, is this guy going to leave? Because sometimes they have this silent agreement where with their next school, they say, let me get these guys signed and committed so I can follow through on what I promised to the other school. But
yeah, they don't want to burn bridges on their way out. Because there have definitely been coaches that burn bridges on their way out and taking kids with them that were originally verbally committed to Temple.
What could we be talking about?
It could be a lot of people.
Yeah, I know.
But I mean, I don't. I think he did get like passing game coordinator or whatever. He's Carolina, like whatever.
Yeah, I would imagine there's. We don't know his exact salary.
Even if he didn't, I'm not sure if it's necessarily. I mean, it's a small move, but I don't know if it's a lateral move. I think East Carolina's in a better spot right now than Temple is. I mean, they've gone back-to-back bowl games. Mike Houston's still there. You're probably hoping you latch on before Mike Houston goes wherever. Jules Montanaro's only connection to Temple was Everett Withers.
Right.
And Everett Withers is gone. Jules Montanaro is now on his 6th job in 6 years. Like the definition of like a hired gun assistant coach.
Yeah.
As for the actual addition of Bowman, I mean, he was let go by Arkansas, but that's also because the defensive coordinator that hired him is now the head coach at UNLV. Barry Odom, who took the Arkansas job he took the Missouri job that Matt Rule turned down. So full circle. I mean, he seems like a up and coming cornerback. He seems like exactly what you want. I don't know if he has the Florida connections that you would like that Montanaro had, but he definitely has like those Tennessee Southern connections. He's from Memphis, so he has a reputation as a good recruiter. I think I put in the article he had 2 4-stars and 2 high 3-stars committed to Arkansas.
Jalen Braxton, TJ Metcalf, RJ Johnson, Dallas.
TJ Metcalf's life must have been a little rough for the last like 6 years. Like TK. Yeah. You're right there. But you're not DK Metcalf.
Yeah.
Apparently Bowman's supposed to be like next in line for a defensive coordinator job. 1 or 2 more.
Yeah, he seems to be, like Kyle said, even though he was let go, he's fairly highly regarded.
So like things like that, and like I know, like I'm not by no means this coming at Javon. Things like that kind of irk me because like this dude was in the FCS like 24 months ago. So like who's making that decision of like, you know what, he's the next in line to be a defensive coordinator? Like, I don't know.
It seems to be the way these, football especially works, right? They like just choose who the next young guy is. And it's circles that we aren't in, so we just
Was it on that? Javon, I think you quote tweeted like the Big Game Boomer account, right? You're like, I think you said, and it was funny. It was conversational. It was good. It was like, obviously this is just some guy's opinion, but Dominique Bowman seems to be pretty highly regarded because he had him on a list, right?
Caden over here was trying to make it seem like I was being a butthole. I'm like, no, like it's just that's what that is. Just some guy's list. I'm not taking a shot at the dude or anything. It's just what it is.
If I was like an up and coming assistant coach, because like a lot of those lists are just complete bullshit, right? Like the top 35 under 35 is literally just like an SID or a coach or whatever, like pushing for one of their guys to be on there. If I was like 28-year-old tight ends coach Kyle Gauss, I'd be running a fake Twitter account where I had like, oh, by the way, like the number 7 tight end coach in the nation is Kyle Gauss. Like, how cool. Like you can just generate buzz on your own.
Bowman did follow me back on Twitter after.
Yeah, follow me.
I guess
humble brag.
Yeah, the fact that he's following us might be a legitimate indicator of, might not be a Sam Dorsett type of situation.
Well, Sam Dorsett follows me on Twitter too, so you never know. these things happen.
Well, and again, we're speaking of Sam Dorsett, obviously, like that. Well, did we talk about this last week? I can't remember. Like, obviously,
yeah, we mentioned it.
Yeah, Kyle broke the news that Sam Dorsett was coming to Temple as its running backs coach. Kyle was the first to report that. Now Sam Dorsett, Javon was able to confirm that he is not going to be coming to Temple. And to answer that question, this stuff happens sometimes. I don't know where. Do we know anything about where Sam Dorsett is? I don't think there's been any additional news about. I don't know.
All I will say is he was officially in like Temple's like work chart directory. Like he was hired, and now he ain't.
Yeah, so I don't.
I don't know. The news while I was sitting at home on the couch watching some college games. That's it.
I have like an off-air theory that I will not put on the podcast.
No, I mean, it could be sometimes when these things happen, and this happened a lot. There were a lot of guys when a different time in college football, different time in Temple's program. I mean, Al Golden had some problems like this where like he was trying to assemble his first and second staffs in his first couple of years. There were a lot of guys that he hired, and then guys took the Temple job on his staff and then got a better offer somewhere else. I don't know, absolutely positively don't know if that's the case with Dorsett. We'll see, but they're still looking for a running backs coach there. And then of course, a lot of a good thing for the program, a lot of January mid-year enrollees. We got the complete list on the football board that Kyle put together for us, but a lot of guys that you want in the program getting spring reps, including your young quarterback and Tyler Douglas, who I mean, I don't think he's going to beat out EJ Warner for the starting job, but a guy that you'd want in there, a guy like Jaquez Smith. Real quick, just to get back to like
as soon as I leave this podcast.
What's that?
I was going to say, as soon as I leave this podcast, I'm going to class with Camargo Coxon and Kyle Williams, so they're in there too. They brought in a good amount of guys. Yeah.
Just speaking of Jaquez Smith makes me think about this.
What class are you in with a true freshman in like his first week of college?
Tupac Shakur and the Hip Hop Revolution.
There you go.
I've heard amazing things about that class. You have to tell me how it is.
A good profession.
But talking about the Florida recruiting ties thing, yes, Jules was on Florida staff, but I don't want to undersell the job that they did as a staff recruiting down there. Like, Chris Wiesehan was helping to close the deal on guys like Jaquez Smith. So it's not like with Jules leaving that, again, I mean, it's a loss, but they're not going to stop recruiting down there and stop offering down there. So I just wanted to.
And even the Florida transfers, like Wilcoxon's primary recruiter was Marvin Clessidor.
Yeah.
Like, I think that Montar got them in the door, but in the end, like the position coaches still had to close.
Yeah. I mean, we could kind of just jump right into the.
We got another mailbag question.
Yeah, when we could jump right into the mailbag on this because some of these questions, sort of like set the agenda for what we would want to talk about there. Again, with a lot of the guys coming in as mid-year enrollees, and then of course a lot of the guys that are leaving via the transfer portal. Again, I think Kyle mentioned on last week's podcast that you want to keep an eye on this because even though we hadn't heard officially about these guys putting their names in the portal, a lot of these guys, and understandably so, want to wait until they're enrolled for the spring semester so they can finish out the spring semester at Temple and then, pick their next location so they can finish out the school year. And that ended up happening. We saw it. We're kind of anticipating that Trey Blair might leave. The next mailbag question here, this one too from DBlay75. Any of the recent departures to the portal at least mildly surprising? Any update on who the new running backs coach from? Any update on why the new running backs coach from Monmouth is no longer on the team? Any possible replacements? We talked partially about that. I can't say we have any solid leads on who the new running backs coach is going to be, but any of the departures mildly surprising. I think we were kind of talking about this in our group chat. Maybe Balansama Kamara a little surprising because he was starting to get a little bit more playing time. I know that people are going to be upset that Kobe Wilson is leaving, given the fact that he had a late Georgia offer. My a little surprising, and before I answer this and get out of the way for you guys, I think it's clear that it's partially surprising, but not, because you can see what DJ Elliott is looking for. Now, Kamara had some length to him. Kobe Wilson, not so much. I mean, they just added a couple more guys in this class, a couple more guys in the portal. I think they're looking for
length,
guys with more length and athleticism. So, maybe these guys are seeing, okay, maybe I'm going to be a backup but not get the snaps that I wanted. So it's a little surprising, but not entirely surprising, I would say.
Caden, what do you think?
Yeah, I'm kind of on board with John, where I don't think it's as surprising. You look at the linebacker position, even if Kobe Wilson wanted to get snaps next year, it's not going to happen. Maybe it's a positive sign that Jordan McGee's definitely returning. You'll have him back. Jacob Hollins, who I thought flashed throughout the year, but also, went through some injuries, I think, at some point, missed some games. I think that linebacker position was too tough for Kobe Wilson to crack. I think his first couple of years here, he flashed at times, but he never really put it together where he seemed like the guy that got an offer at Georgia at one point.
Yeah, I mean, I think with him, it's just, you were going to be behind like three guys, like Jacob Hollins, Jordan McGee, Uvanni Rigby for two spots. And if you're a fourth-year junior, you're like, crap, I have like 24 college football games left. I got to go somewhere I'm like guaranteed to start. The one that really the one that surprised me, I guess, would be Kamara, because the other ones you can point to, like, okay, Kobe Wilson needs to find more snaps somewhere. Jalen Satchel, like, defensive linemen usually transfer up just because like it's a position that like it's harder to recruit, and like he has flashed at times. He started the first 5-6 games before losing that spot. Kamara, it's like you were starting to play more, but you hadn't played enough to go up a level yet. Mm-hmm. Like, he doesn't have film to be like, okay, I'm going to Purdue, I'm going to Rutgers, I'm going to Maryland. Like, he's probably going to go down a level, which doesn't make that much sense to me, but best luck to him. I mean, now they have 5 open scholarship spots, when before a week ago they were at 5 over. So it was a necessary thing. But all the ones that came out in the last couple of days, none of them particularly surprised me. Even Kobe Wilson was like kind of on my radar. But Trey Blair, I've been waiting on for like 2 months.
Oh yeah, who you telling?
Any additional insight other than that, Javon? Another football mailbag question here to close things out, and again we'll give you, following that, some something to look at for some updated upcoming coverage that's going to be coming your way for an Owl Scoop subscriber. But now this last mailbag question to close things out here comes from Wayne Owl. The question from Wayne Owl is, this might be fluid depending upon the growth of the young players come spring ball, but what positions do you think the coaches will target with the additional scholarships available? Most pressing, I would think, would be a backup quarterback, which would be tough knowing EJ is pretty much a locked start, and another defensive tackle. With Kobe Wilson leaving, would think depth at linebacker would also be a focus. Again, this is going to be an ongoing conversation. And again, another round of this, like we've talked about before, will come when spring ball wraps up, because the portal stuff is not done. The roster movement is not done, but most pressing need in the portal, we've talked about this before. What do you guys think at this juncture now in January?
Position that uses all 10 fingers pretty consistently. I think another pass catcher. If you got,
does any position not use 10 fingers?
well, yeah, that's probably a bad way to work it. There's 5 open scholarships, right?
Right.
I think one of those has to be on the next to Donica Sanders.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. I agree with that. And let's be clear. I mean, 5 is right now. He said, like John said, it's probably going to be more movement after the spring. So there should be some flexibility. I would agree. Wide receiver. I think a lot of the other positions you're looking for like that next wave. Quarterback, you're looking for like somebody after EJ Warner. Tight end, you're looking for somebody after David Martin Robinson, Jordan Smith. I still think they need to like plug in a left tackle somewhere. I know they just offered Penn's left tackle, but he's also on an official visit to Stanford this weekend, so that might be a little tough. They need to find another offensive lineman.
Yeah, unless they. Oh, go ahead, Caden. Sorry.
I was going to go kind of Kai's point where the offensive line, they brought in some freshmen in this class, but unless you're expecting them to be the next Adam Klein, Isaac Moore, and play early, you really don't have anyone proven. Victor Stoffel, I thought, flashed on the offensive line at times last year, but the interior offensive line also, I still think, is relatively weak. So I don't think they have enough veteran experience or guys that have proven that they can be consistent starters really on this offensive line coming back next year.
Yeah, and unless you're really, and they might be. I mean, obviously, who are they not high on if they're not signing him? But unless you think that, and maybe he can, unless like you're really, really high if you're Chris Weezian on Diego Barajas and he comes in and you say, that's my starting left tackle. And he might be. We'll see. The spring will tell us a lot. I would agree that they're probably going to need some help there on the line. Kyle and I talked about this last week, to that point there in terms of Wayne Al's question, maybe a backup quarterback. Yeah, EJ's your starter until proven otherwise. They like Tyler Douglas, and Tyler will get some important snaps as a mid-year enrollee. And Tyler was coached by not only by a good coach, Don Klein at Ocean Township, but he works with Tony Ricopi and is kind of part of that whole group. So he's should be healthy by now with his shoulder. But like Kyle mentioned last week, I think the trick will be, can you bring in a quarterback where you say to him, on one hand, and this is a theoretical conversation. Yeah, you can compete, but you really kind of need a guy for depth, a guy that could step in, that has some experience to back up EJ, where you don't want to either, you've got some flexibility where you could play Tyler Douglas a little bit if you get into some blowouts either way, but otherwise you don't really want to burn his red shirt. Can they get a backup quarterback that would fit that description? That'll be a challenge.
Yeah, they need an Alex Moran from Blue Mountain State. They just need a quarterback.
Guys wants to come party, man.
They just need a guy who's complacent with being quarterback number 2.
And Alex Moran eventually becomes QB1, though.
Yeah.
So you never know. I will say, just to kind of put like a bow on this, is I think a lot of people that maybe aren't as plugged in might see this and be like, holy crap, look at all these people that left and blah, blah, and they have so many holes to fill. I kind of want to hammer home that this is not the same as like the Rod Carey exoduses. This was very much like we knew for the last year that this was probably going to be the offseason where you saw a lot of roster turnover. Like you had a full year in the system now. Who fits, who doesn't fit, who meshes with the staff, who doesn't. So I'm not surprised by the 17 or 18 scholarship guys that are gone now.
No, and you also don't have the outside looking in perspective of look. I mean, and it was the worst kept secret, depending on what former players were sharing and or retweeting or liking on social media. There doesn't seem to be that perception from the outside looking in of like even guys like PJ and Sean and and obviously like guys like Hassan Reddick. Was talking to, hopefully we'll get Colin Thompson on soon for another episode. Just finished out another season with the Panthers. I mean, like he was just catching up with him earlier this week, and the perception from former players seems to be that they like what Stan Drayton is doing. Obviously, they have to keep winning. They have to keep proving themselves. They got to do better than 3-9. But I think that's great context from Kyle. This is not, you're going to see roster movement, but it's not like guys leaving, guys dropping hints, guys subtweeting, all sorts of stuff. I don't think it's anywhere near the same thing. Before we let you guys go, again, just wanted to give you a heads up on some upcoming coverage so you can, obviously the 2023 recruiting is not done. We've been talking about that over the last few minutes where you're going to see some more roster movement, some portal additions, but the staff is now on to some 2024 offers. They have a junior day coming up January 29th. And again, if you have not subscribed to Al Scoop, now would be a good time. We've got all our recruiting coverage is typically subscriber only stuff. So you can check that out. Max Dinnenberg is going to be talking to Samari McCoy, one of the offensive and defensive linemen at Beaver Falls High School. The guy's coming in for junior day. Liam Gianelli is going to be talking to Jackson Whitaker, a tight end and defensive end from Shore Regional in Jersey. And then also should be talking to Luke Sheehan, a quarterback up at Middletown North, another Jersey school. Luke, again, another one of those quarterbacks that's working out with Tony Ricopi, who, again, has worked on guys like Kenny Pickett and Tyler Douglas. So got some upcoming football recruiting coverage. So even though it's only January, you'll see plenty of recruiting content on the site as well. So guys, any closing thoughts before we close out episode 24?
Go Birds.
Agreed.
other than Javon being excited about the departure of Greg Roman?
They said Lamar's going to be part of the OC hiring, so maybe you'll be happy.
Hey, whatever.
It's not that far of a commute from Baltimore to DC, so he can probably still like be in on the OC meetings while he's playing for the Commanders.
Javon, how would you feel about that? At the risk of extending this podcast by another 25 minutes.
I just know because I got to get out of here soon. I just want to know what I did to Kyle to deserve that.
That's nothing. That's nothing. Lamar has made himself a pretty easy target for shots like that over the last couple of weeks, especially after what's his name? Who was wide receiver that like they just signed 3 weeks ago that took shots at him? I don't know. One of his teammates was very pissed that he wasn't playing in the playoffs.
Oh, Sammy Watkins.
Sammy Watkins. Sammy Watkins was like he has like Hall of Fame potential.
He said like I don't know the extent to his injury. I'm just being selfish here because I think we can win a Super Bowl.
I think he kind of questioned Lamar's not work ethic, but like commitment to the team. With like you can kind of muscle through this, and
everyone else has defended him, and RG3 got on TV and let the world know that he has spoken to Lamar and several people within the Ravens organization, and there is nothing wrong. Okay, so let's keep running.
Next week's episode of Inside the Ravens with Javon Edmonds.
Let's keep running, with the narratives. It's okay. It's easy to hate on L Boogie, the most talented.
I'm not hating on him because I don't care. I'm not a Ravens fan. I just love the entertainment.
Yeah.
No, not y'all. I'm just saying the whole world out there. I'm just be quiet for the off season.
I just think if there's any franchise that like sold its soul for a Super Bowl, it might be the Ravens. Since then, there's been some stuff.
And it's not that they sold their souls. It's just Harbaugh is a glorified babysitter who doesn't get called out enough.
Well, if he had to fire his offensive coordinator.
Like I said, on next week's episode of Inside the Ravens, we'll have more. So anyway, thank you all for joining us for another episode of The Scoop. Stay happy, healthy, and we will talk to you.